Hello, friends, and welcome to the Union Labor Advisory Network. I'm Mike Fina. Today, I'm extremely proud and privileged to have Brooke, Plumber Local 200 Apprentice, fourth year apprentice, on with us today to learn a little bit more about her background, history, and experience. And I've been following Brooke on social media for a few years now, been posting out some of her incredible content. It's been an inspiration to me, and I'm so thankful to have Brooke on with us today to learn, again, a little bit more about her background and how she got into the trade. So, Brooke, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all your time, and
awesome
excited to learn a little bit more about you. Yeah. So, Brooke, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I got into the trades. I get this question a lot. I got into the trades when I was 14. So I have a little bit of a unique story. I was in public school education that offered a vocational program. So I went from public school because I have OCD and Tourette syndrome. So I did better in like a smaller classroom, and they offer they have a vocational school where you could do like half day learning, half day you learn a skill set. So that could be cooking, that was, veterinary services, horticulture, carpentry. And I remember when I joined, it was like, I don't know, school started in like September. This was like middle of or to like end of October. And all the classes were booked up except for welding and cosmetology. So immediately, I'm 14 years old. The counselor's with me, and she's like, you know what? She's like, we're gonna put you in cosmetology. And I was like, well, what's this? She's like, oh, you don't wanna do this. Which immediately I was like, oh, I want to do that. So I got into welding, and I just, something about it in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is boring. I don't really know much about it. But once I learned that you could like melt, metal and like learn to actually create things and fabricate, I got really drawn to it. I got drawn to learning and getting better at something and developing a skill set, especially with the challenges that I had, being in a classroom and not being able to, understand certain things. And I'm a different type of learner like everyone else. I learn hands-on, and I felt like I gravitated towards welding very naturally, and I became very good at it. And a couple of years later, I actually competed in a Skills USA program. So that was really cool. And I was the only woman to do it. And I was the only woman that BOCES had ever sent out for welding specifically. So I felt very good about that. But that was like the beginning intro into the trades for me. And I've been welding on and off ever since.
That's great. And then from welding into local 200 into plumbing, world, how did that transition, or how did that happen?
It wasn't much of it was a little bit of a jarring. It was a different type of transition. So I did welding for years, and then I met my husband. I had my kids young, and I went into a different business for a decade. I went actually into a diaper service. I developed this. I wanted to, do something with my kids and whatever, be involved, carry them around with me everywhere. And I just was big into the environment, was big into reduce, reuse, recycle, reusables, all that. And, so I created this business. It was small, and then it grew to be something a lot bigger than I anticipated. And, I did that for 10 years. And then I had an itch to get into something else. I felt like it ran its course, and I'm like, you know what? Like, my heart's in the trades. There's a lot of money in the trades. There's not many women in the trades. And I always felt like, one thing people would always ask me is, oh, do you still weld? It was always kind of like my identity. So I'm like, I miss that. I want to get back into that. And especially as my girls were getting older. So I went into non-union welding, and I worked for a non-union shop. And then I met a gentleman who was, he was laid off at the time. He was working at the shop. He was part of Plumbers Local 200. And he was telling me about the unions. And I remember him saying, you could weld, you can get into the plumbers union and weld and do all this stuff. And I was like, I can't be a plumber, like, how am I going to be a plumber? And, but I was already dealing with diapers. So I'm like, all right, let me look into it.
Yep.
But actually I was working at the machine shop, and I got an offer to go to Local 138, which is a heavy operating machine union. And I wasn't really drawn to the mechanics of it. Being a mechanic, I think it's a great union, a very strong union, but I didn't really see myself working on like big rigs, and big machines kind of freak me out. I mean, I'm not the best driver as it is. I'm not really gonna try and play with a bunch of bulldozers. You know what I mean? So, so make a long story short, I was like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? Let me apply to a union. And he had actually told me about all the benefits of a union, how important it was to work in a union for many different reasons. Just the training that you get, and everything that I was learning up until that point was, the little bit of schooling that I had, but it was all like being in the field, and I was around dangerous situations. I mean, it wasn't OSHA. There wasn't like all these, checks and balances to make sure that you had a safe environment to work in. And there weren't people showing you anything. You were just kind of winging it. So when I kind of just one day was like, you know what, let me just try. What's the worst that can happen? And I got accepted. And I was like, all right, cool. And then it was kind of just off to the races from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And again, Local 200, great local out in Long Island. Richie Brooks, business manager, great guy.
Mario Matera, Joseph Scicciarini, my business agents. I mean, they're fantastic. And they're very, pro, specifically women being in the field. So plumbing statistically has the least amount of women for tradeswomen. It's one of the hardest industries for women to get into. And that's not even just because it's hard for us. They want us to come in, but it's a difficult job, So I have to say my union's been fantastic with, supporting us and wanting to, help lift us up in any way they can.
And again, I know the statistics, so there's fewer women in the trades, obviously. And how is that working within Local 200? Are you one of like 400? One of four.
And I believe there's around 1,400 members. So we're holding it down. And out of the four, I'm the only one with 3 kids. So it's a very unique set of challenges that have been present. But like I said, I mean, I work with guys on my job, and I mean they're wonderful to work with. I actually work with a friend who's his name's Andrew Loynes, and he is or Lyons, I always say, but he is a big fan of your page, by the way. So I wanted to shout him out. But he's a wonderful he's almost a journeyman, and he's very supportive. And I work with a lot of guys like that. If I'm having trouble with something, they're all like little mini teachers. That's the thing about the union too, is when you go through an apprenticeship program, a trade program specifically, it's you really learn a lot. You're doing on-the-job training. So a lot of people that are, they kind of have cold feet, especially women getting into the trades. When you get into the union apprenticeship program, I mean, you are learning. They're teaching you, and you're learning on the job. So it's, it's a good environment. For
me, I've been very fortunate in my 20-year career, and previously before social media and being an educator about all these incredible career opportunities within the unionized construction field. Moving that money and having the ability to go through a lot of these different training centers. These are like these are universities. These are training centers of which you're learning these particular skilled trades. Like you mentioned before, you're learning with a group of people, all in the same boat, and then having those people that have that experience to really train you hands-on. And like you said, you're a hands-on, learner.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't get anything better. And you look at these are universities like Harvard or like, Yale. The acceptance rate for some of these apprenticeships are lower than, even the academia, colleges. So you are like the best of the best. Or so when you're learning, going through a unionized training center, you're getting the best skilled training and education. And when you look at all the pay packages and benefits on the back end side as well, I'm just a big fan, and I love meeting people like yourself to learn, how you got in, what's going on right now, and then maybe your experience on like, recruiting or organizing other people to say these are the careers that if you are interested, there's an opportunity there, and I'll let you speak about that.
Well, I just to make one point about your comment with Harvard and Yale and the acceptance rates. I mean, the Plumbers Local 200 apprenticeship program. It's not like all unions are created differently, but I have to say my apprenticeship program, they're very serious. Like they're training professionals. So the curriculum is very tight. It's difficult. It's a lot. It's 5 years. It's not, it's not chump change. It's 2 nights a week. 5th year is 3 nights if you want to get your certification. I mean, Bob and Matt, the training coordinators, I mean, they put everything into this program, and it's from the top down really that you have to have a good support system. So I feel like, and not to say anything about non-union, but that's not just having both sides. I never got that in non-union. You had the boss and you had a couple of guys underneath them, but they weren't like, your success was not their interests. So when you're in a union, specifically like my union, you have the business agents that are rooting for you. You have the people underneath them, the board members that are rooting for you. You have the training program, and the teachers, and all the teachers that put all of their time into you. So it's like they want you to succeed. And I think that's what separates, the two, union, non-union, so it's interesting. But as far as, getting people into the trades, I mean, I talk to people all the time, whether I'm at Whole Foods talking to cashiers, I'm talking to someone, pumping my gas. I mean, I talk to people all the time. And, I always hear about how much, how difficult it is, right? Like, and I'll be talking to the same cashier for 5 years, and it's like, oh, I'm hoping to become a manager one day, or I'm hoping to do this. And I always say, I'm like, become a plumber, become an electrician, get into the field, Oh, I couldn't do that. And it's like, but you could. And a lot of people don't realize that they really walk you through the whole thing. If you're willing to work and, you're good with your hands and you want to learn, I mean, you can do it. So that's like my recruiting technique that I use, especially for women, because a lot of women, I believe it's something like 23% of women women are paid 23% more being in the trades than other fields. So it's like you make more money, and it's also, you have benefits, you have a pension package, and even with your background, I mean, you see all the things we get with the union, you know what I mean? So it's like I try to use those and to my advantage in my conversations with people on trying to recruit them, because skilled trades needs people, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword, people, they just don't know enough about it,
Absolutely. And for me, I'm not into the politics, but economic job creation, and when you're getting that better pay scale, obviously there's more money to go around for the communities as well. And when you're hiring from within, it just helps from your communities, having people that have a little extra money to be able to spend and live a career and a life that they want. So those are the things that I'm proud to promote, because I see it. And it just makes me proud to know people like yourself with those training centers that are there. Because, as you mentioned, there was another gentleman that we interviewed a few weeks back, and he was a barber. He goes, I didn't know nothing about nothing. He didn't know anything. But he was good with his hands. And then he was able to, pick this up. And if you're a hustler and hard work, and you enjoy, working in the construction field, you can make it happen. You just have to have that dedication and drive, and the solidarity or the teamwork around unionized construction. I see it. I mean, again, it's just the brotherhood, the sisterhood that's there. It's very inspiring.
And one thing I want to say too about, in my experience with being in skilled trades, obviously it's about how good you work. It's about your work ethic. It's about, whatever, coming to work every day, not banging out all the time. But one thing I find is that, being in a skilled trade, specifically being in like the plumbing world, it's a people's skill set. Like, you're learning how to deal with people, so you're navigating relationships with others, your coworkers, your bosses, your clients. I mean, these are also secondary skill sets that you learn as well when you're in a program, when you're in an environment like this. And I think it does have an impact on people, even in their normal day-to-day non-working lives, on how they get along with others. And I think it's a people industry. And to your point as well, like, when people make more money, they spend more money, and that helps the economy. It's a big thing. I think unions are really, especially strong unions like the one that I'm in. I think it's really important for people to know more about it. And they really don't. They just don't know. It's not like promoted out there. That's why pages like yours and others on Instagram and all those places. I mean, the fact that they're promoting it, I think it's fantastic, because I really think it's getting the word out.
Yeah. And you as well, Brooke. I mean, you're the one that's, out there. We were able to reach each other via social media because, again, my passion is watching people like yourself doing those jobs, inspired and enjoying your career, and really just celebrating what it is, or these particular pay packages, or the alternative careers that women can have in these particular construction fields. It just, again, it needs to be promoted, because the world of AI and, university learning, you could learn a lot of stuff. COVID changed a lot of lives, where now everything, academia or your universities are online. Yeah. And like you, Brooke, you could be doing this or learning, to be a biochemist at nighttime from your computer. You can't be a plumber without getting your hands, in the field and doing that work. Yeah. And in today's world, you could, you actually could have the best of both worlds. But the skill trade learning, nobody could take away what you've, that skill that you're learning as a plumber, as a welder. Yeah. You have that, and that's transparent. You can move that to any particular career, or across the country or across the world, really, if you wanted to get that job.
I say that all the time, because I want to go. So I ideally want to move to like Costa Rica or Switzerland, right? These are two places I want to move. And I always say, like, people are like, oh, what do you do? I always get comments about being a plumber. So, or a welder. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it's a skill set that no one can take from me, right? You know it, and you're only going to get better at it the more that you work with it. So like right now I'm an apprentice, And I know so much more than when I first walked in those doors. In 5 years, I'll know way more than I know now. So it's like, it's just constantly, it's always enveloping itself, and I'm always learning more and progressing. And you can literally take that anywhere, right? And even the skill sets that you learn on the job, because of an apprenticeship program, because of, the network of people, I have a small union. So like, you meet people, their personalities, they'll help you, you know what I mean? Like it's like a mentorship program. You can literally take the skill sets that you learn from there and you can put it maybe into a different field, maybe into something completely different, maybe into management, maybe into, being a project manager, whatever it is, but it's interesting because I always say that, especially with the whole AI thing. I mean, this is not a skill that it can duplicate. You're not going to have Siri, switching out toilets. You know what I mean? Like, it's not happening, at least now, So it's like, I think people need to have these fundamental skill sets to help with job security. That's a big thing.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing some of the stuff through National Suffolk Building Trades, the Long Island Fed, working with some of the school districts as well, bringing those BOCE or trade schools into, the curriculum now. Is really, it's just great to see. And I know that Labor's been pushing really hard to make sure that training curriculum starts at the high schools as well, so that they do understand that there are alternative opportunities within the trades for those students to be able to look at, versus going into like the financial world or other professions.
Yes,
so it's
absolutely.
Great. Brooke, tell me about, how would you recommend, or what would you tell other females or other women or anybody really, if they were interested in getting into trades, how they go about doing it? Like, again, I know you probably knew somebody for Local 200, you applied.
So like walking in off the street kind of thing. Yeah. So like, so honestly, my biggest advice would be to see what, first off, the person would be interested in getting into, right? Because sometimes you might get into like HVAC and be like, oh, I want to be a plumber or pipe fitter, want to be, a welder, whatever it is. I think learning about the skilled trades that are in your area. So I happen to live on Long Island, New York, and like, we have a lot of different unions out here, you know what I mean? So it's, and in New York City, and there's a lot of different trades. And I would just see, first off, what you would be interested in, because everything's different. And then if you're interested, I believe there's like postings on New York State. I know they have like the union opening postings where you can click on different links and it takes you to when their open enrollment period is. So I know for like Plumbers Local 200, it's usually like in June, they'll start accepting applications, or you can pick applications up. I would just talk to them about that. I would really strongly recommend union. Or I know some people say, oh, get into non-union first, but I'm all about like, the union. So I would just say, I would recommend getting into the union, starting out. I even know guys who are in their 50s that are 18 that start in the union and they're so happy. Their benefit packages, their, everything, their insurance, their annuities, especially when you start that young. So if you're serious about getting into the trades, I would recommend getting into a union. And I would also just talk to them about the benefits. I would talk to them about, the opportunities to grow. Some people maybe don't want to work in the field. They want to be, they want to do drawings. They want to be in the office. They want to do, maybe have their own business, like maybe get involved in their own local unions, So I would talk to them more about the opportunity based, the opportunities that are around pretty much, and start that way.
Gotcha. Non-traditional women in the workforce, new, or even the tradeswomen build nations. I know there's a conference coming up next year. I think I mentioned earlier today.
Yeah.
My wife and I were able to go to the one in DC. Really inspiring to see so many different female women just so excited and so enthusiastic and loving their trade. You've been an inspiration to me. You really have.
Thank you.
I'm excited to promote you and follow a lot of the social media educational information that you put out. Really.
Yeah, I try. It's hard, and that's one thing too. I talk to women who have children, and another reason why I'm big into the unions is because when I was at the conference back into was in Vegas, right? It was 2020, 2022, 2023, and they are trying to help women with children to get into the trades. It's hard. Childcare, especially during times like these, it's not easy. Everybody knows people are tight. The economy is what it is. But they are trying to help supplement, childcare. So that's something I'm just learning about, all the other benefits that are coming out of our unions and what they're trying to do and to help people. And I really want to reiterate how important it is to go union. how it does help support our economy, how it helps build, relationships, how it helps build connections. I mean, I've met so many different people, even today, I meet people that are other unions that I've never met before that I'll see on other jobs. I saw somebody that I worked with 3 years ago, one of my first jobs. So it's nice to have a network of people. And I feel like it does more than help the economy. It helps the community, because you see people that are working with their hands, they're building something. AI hasn't taken over everything. People can still work with their hands. It's like, you build friendships and this is what it's about, right? You're doing, especially for me, like you're doing something hard, you're learning, you're getting better. It's building your confidence. It's helping you learn other things. So it's kind of just like this is cascade effect where I believe that, being in skilled trade specifically, it just kind of bleeds into other things. So I can weld and I can plumb. I might get into, HVAC at some point. I mean, who knows? You kind of just build and build, and it really helps you, promote your career.
Absolutely. And Brooke, you mentioned before about, just all the other services or benefits that are out there, or the union tries to help out and subsidize or help in different ways. And with children, I had the privilege of meeting someone from the Workforce Development Institute that works in collaboration with the Long Island Fed and National Suffolk Building Trades. To talk about those particular grants for child daycare.
Yes.
So that there are female, the families that need to, that you're working, you're probably on the job site before your kids are even awake in some cases right now.
It's a generous subsidy too. I mean, from what I've seen. So.
Yes. So promoting that and just making sure that people are aware of those particular subsidies or those particular grants to help people that need it to be able to facilitate and do their jobs, make their money, and then take care of their children. These are available. And for me with the ULA and just having these educational resources to make sure that we get that out there.
Yeah.
And as well as you promoting those particular opportunities, collectively, we're together, we're a lot stronger.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at labor too, is that there's a lot of solidarity and everybody's kind of working for that common goal to try to help you lift everybody up together. And it just makes me proud to be able to do what it is that I do today, and then work with people like yourself just to promote everything we're doing. So,
well, that's also how the unions were built. I mean, if we look back to how they even came to be, with unions and how people fought for an 8-hour workday, they fought for weekends, they fought for lunch breaks, they fought for days off. Like, people don't realize, like, it's easy to, especially when people criticize unions, it's easy to do that because you don't know how they started. You don't know, what people had to go through to even just get like a regular 8-hour day. You weren't working from sun up, sun down for pennies on the dollar. People said they had enough. And that's when unions were created. Like that. This is, if you look into the history of it, I mean, it's really fascinating stuff. So to be a part of a union, to be a part of that movement, I remember Bob Satiano, my first year teacher, he had taught us about the union history. And I had so much respect for it because I didn't realize how many people lost their lives fighting for union benefits, for union rights. I mean, you see how bad it was back then. It's crazy. They're making nothing. People were literally dying. And now it's like, I'm so happy to see that the unions are becoming strong and they're in a place where they're, trying to get more people into the unions and trying to spread that awareness. Because if you look where it started, I mean, it was gnarly. It wasn't cute. You know what I mean? Like how there's no week. People worked 7 days a week. They didn't get lunch breaks. I mean, there was no like human rights. Like we are so privileged to be in a time where we can be a part of a union, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Hopefully down the line, we could integrate some of the financial literacy programs into some of the training curriculum as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All this stuff is transparent in today's world, and you're just providing more education or resources to, a union member to build out that package even further. And I'm just proud to do what it is I do and support you and union labor as best I can.
And it's transparent too. If people have questions about, let's say, insurance packages. I mean, when I worked non-union, like I couldn't just go ask my boss, oh, hey, tell me, whatever, any question I want to ask them about getting benefits or whatever. I mean, I get fired, like at least that was my experience. In my union, I could be like, oh, can you explain what this package is or what goes into here? And, Richie Brooks, they'll open the books for you at any point. He's like, hey, listen, this, that, and third. It's very transparent. So I think, exactly to your point, they're building awareness. They're trying to build on what we already have as a solid foundation in union solidarity, and I think that's really important. But I love your page. I love everything that you post. I love learning about all the trades out there, and I'm really hoping that I can get to the convention next year.
Absolutely. Brooke, I just want to thank you. I know you coming back from work today and just, on a Friday night, And today we are the beginning of Women's History Month too. So you're the first
Yes,
one on
for
here.
sure.
I woke up this morning. I'm like, oh, we got Brooke on for Women's History Month. This is awesome. This is going to be great.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Brooke. And then look out for more information. I'm sure we'll have you all the content and how to follow you on Instagram as well. And I just wish you all the best in your career. And we're here for you for whatever you need. So thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And I love your page. And thank you for everything you do.
You got it, Brooke. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I'd like to thank all our sponsors for helping to build and promote the ULA Network. It is because of you that we're able to support, educate, and promote informative content relevant to labor. Please subscribe, like, and share our channel and media. I'd like to thank you all for your support.